patterns all around us, right? Just hidden in plain sight. But here's the thing. Sometimes the really profound ones, they don't show up when we're winning. Nope. They emerge from the things we're about to throw away, from what we first call a mistake.
Yeah, that's a really powerful thought, Alara. And it brings us right to the big question for today, doesn't it? It's a simple one, but it's at the heart of so many game-changing discoveries. So when is a mistake not a mistake? When does an accident stop being just an error and, become the answer?
So let's dive in. Our story starts back in the early 1800s with a material that seemed like an absolute miracle, natural rubber. I mean, people were just fascinated by this stuff. It wasn't like anything they'd ever seen before. But, and this is a big but, this miracle had a fatal and super frustrating flaw. So, on the one hand, you had this amazing substance. It was waterproof, it was elastic, just full of incredible potential. But in reality, it was a promise it just couldn't keep. In the summer heat, it would melt into this sticky, awful-smelling goo. And in the winter, it would freeze rock hard, totally brittle. So it was pretty much useless. Now, this massive problem, it just completely captured the mind of one guy in particular, Charles Goodyear. And he wasn't some formally trained scientist, He just became utterly obsessed with figuring out how to stabilize rubber. This wasn't just a project for him, it became his entire life. And when you say it became his life, Alara, you are not kidding. The cost of that obsession was just immense. We're not talking about a few months tinkering in a lab. We're talking about a decade of relentless, totally desperate effort. The man was arrested for his debts, but he kept experimenting, even in jail. He sold his family's furniture for research money while they were practically starving, all for an answer that just wouldn't show up. Right, so by any normal standard, he was a total failure. He had poured every single penny he had, and a lot he didn't have, into this one single quest. And what did he have to show for it? Absolutely nothing but debt and disappointment. Which brings us to the year 1839. Just try to picture it. Goodyear in his workshop, probably surrounded by the mass of all his countless failed experiments, and he's at it again, trying one more time to find a solution. So for this latest experiment, he was mixing sulfur into the rubber. It was just another thing to try. One more additive on a super long list of things that had already failed. Honestly, there was zero reason to think this time would be any different from all the other failed attempts. And then it happened. A simple accident. Maybe he was careless, maybe he got excited. The stories are a little different, but he fumbled. That whole glob of rubber and sulfur just drops from his hands and lands right on a hot stove. And that really should have been the end of it, right? The mixture didn't just melt, it charred. It was just a burnt, completely ruined mess. Another failed experiment. But this one didn't even leave a sticky puddle, just a lump of what looked like actual garbage. This had to be rock bottom. But this moment, right here, this is where the pattern totally shifts. Instead of just tossing that burnt lump away, which anyone would have done, something made Goodyear stop. He actually looked closer at the mess. And in that moment, frustration turned into, curiosity. And he asked the one question that changed everything. A question that honestly, only someone who'd spent a decade obsessing over this one problem could even think to ask. He just thought, wait a second, why didn't it melt into a sticky mess? It was supposed to, but it didn't. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many huge breakthroughs are just tossed in the trash because they don't look like success at first?
So as he's examining this charred lump, he realizes the heat hadn't actually destroyed it at all. It had transformed it. The rubber had turned into something totally new. It was durable, kind of like leather, but it was still elastic and waterproof. And here's the kicker. It was stable. It didn't melt anymore. It didn't freeze anymore. Right there, in that moment of complete failure, he'd found the exact thing he'd been looking for almost 10 years.
He had literally stumbled upon the hidden pattern. Heat, the thing that had always been rubber's biggest enemy, it was actually the key to unlocking its potential. You just had to add sulfur first. That process, which he later called vulcanization, was the secret he'd been chasing the whole time. And think about this for a second. This wasn't some big, dramatic lab explosion. It was just a quiet, frustrating little accident. But the impact of that quiet moment? Oh, it was anything but quiet. It would go on to completely reshape the modern world in ways that Goodyear himself probably couldn't have even imagined. Just think about it. Without stable, durable rubber, modern transportation as we know it just wouldn't exist, period. Every single car, every truck, every airplane, they all need tires. And all of that goes right back to that one clumsy mistake, that one spill on a hot stove. Goodyear's story is incredible, but it's not a one-off. It's actually a blueprint. It's a pattern of discovery we see over and over and over again. It just goes to show you that progress isn't always this neat, planned out thing. A lot of the time, it's stumbled upon by someone who's just ready to see it. So as we finish up here, just take a second, look around the room you're in right now. The plastic on your phone, the glass in the window, the glue holding something together. How many of those materials, you think, started out not as some brilliant idea, but as a mistake, an anomaly, a failed experiment that somebody, somewhere, was just curious enough not to throw away? Because that really seems to be the pattern, doesn't it? Our world is constantly being reshaped by these happy accidents, and by the people who are prepared enough to see what they really are. So maybe the next huge breakthrough isn't waiting in some moment of triumph. Maybe it's hidden in the mess we're all just about to clean up.